Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Liquitex class today. We're going to give you some spring inspiration, and we are going to be using Liquitex Basics paint and the gloss gel. And we are going to be making a lily, a calla lily using yarn. And we're going to show you how to do a yarn pull. So let's take it to Marla, who's going to be leading the class today. So enjoy.
Thanks, Jeannie. Hi, everyone. Thanks for spending your afternoon with me. I'm really looking forward to painting this piece. It's a simple technique, but it takes a little bit of time to master it. So I hope that this class will get you excited about doing it, and you can continue to practice it as the days go on. But yes, as Jeannie said, we're going to be working with Basics Acrylic, and there's a few things I'd like to point out. And I guess let's go to there we go. A few things I want to point out about Basics in case it's a new range to you. Basics has, there's about 72 colors in the range. It's a really accessible acrylic range to get your hands on. It comes in at least two sizes. We've got the smaller 4-ounce, and this is like 8.45 ounce. I like having my white in that size because you always use a lot of white, as we know. But there's some information that I think can be useful for choosing color as you continue to do projects. Obviously, we're going to have the color name, titanium white. We're going to also give you information like what pigment is used. So this little PW6, that stands for pigment white number 6. And this is standard across the art materials industry, this kind of naming. Maybe you have a yellow in a different brand and they call it sunny yellow. But with if you can find that color index number, like here it's PY3, you find out sunny yellow is PY3, and you want to switch to Liquitex, you're like, oh good, they don't have sunny yellow, but they have cad yellow light hue, that's PY3. So it's just a good way to match colors across brands. The black square in here shows you that the pigments used in this particular color are naturally opaque. This yellow, for example, is half black and clear, or it shows it's half black and I'd say white, but you can see the underneath color. That says it's a translucent color. And if it were a black outline, that means it's going to be a transparent color. Okay? That's helpful when it comes to different painting techniques. And just know that this opacity has nothing to do with how much or how little binder is used in the paint. It has to do with the pigment characteristics themselves. So the more you use titanium white or cad yellow, light hue, and so on, you start to realize, this color is going to be naturally more transparent. This one's more opaque, and so on. My little happy sun symbol here, this is where we show our light fastness ratings. And this is how permanent the color is in response to UV light. So light fastness 1 is our most permanent color. And just as a guideline, we say it's going to last about 100 years or more in museum conditions, which that's just a way of saying in a protective environment away from constant direct sun and good humidity control, that kind of thing. And it's not as if on a color's 100th birthday it's going to change from like orange to blue or something. It just means that if it's a light fastest 1 color, after it's been around for 100 plus years, you may start to see some fading. But all this to say, this artist range color, all of our colors are rated with this system, and it's going to let you know about how long that color is going to last, which is always going to be much longer than a hardware grade color. Okay. We have white, cad yellow light hue, cad orange hue, hooker's green hue, permanent, light green permanent. I'm going to put our greens to the side right now because we're going to be doing that for the leaves at the end. Before we get started, I want to mention our gloss gel. This is another item I'm going to be using today to create this effect. This is our gloss gel medium, and this is 16-ounce size. It comes in various sizes. But if you've never used a gel before, I wanted to show you what to expect when it comes to an acrylic gel. When you open the container and it's brand new, you're going to see a foil top or capper or seal, I should say. I had it half off. I'm going to go ahead and remove it completely. Just know that we have that to help keep it from drying out in storage. And when you remove that, you'll notice that the gel is not clear when wet. But after you apply it to a surface and let it dry, a gloss gel will become crystal clear as long as it's thinner than about an 1/8 inch in thickness. Okay, so don't let this white color freak you out. It will turn clear as it dries. When you mix color with it, it's of course going to stay the color that you mix it with, but it will add transparency to your color as you're working. So that can be helpful too for different techniques, right? We've got a water spritz bottle, which we're going to need to kind of loosen up the texture a bit, and my palette knife and some 12 to 14 inch strands of yarn. I probably will use the same strand the whole time. If you want to be a little more clean about your process, you could use a different strand for each flower. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to put that here. Got a 9 by 12 surface. And the first thing I'm going to do, well, let me show you this. So if you notice that you look at the flower, we've got darker value color, and then it goes to lighter in each stroke. And we'll see that as we work. But I'm going to start with the Cad Orange, and I'm going to mix it with the Cad Yellow Light Hue. I'm going to put about 1 part orange to 1 part, excuse the rude noise there, 1 part yellow, and we can mix this up. I like the orange, but I want it a little softer for making this yellow Calla. So in fact, I want it to be softer still. So let's say that's about 4 parts yellow to 1 part orange. And it's okay to have that much color because we're going to need a decent volume for doing this technique.
Marla, a couple questions I want to just jump in early on, because we get this quite a bit when we have Liquitex classes, because we are obviously using Liquitex products to achieve the desired effect that we're showing here today. But it's
Right.
What kind of viscosity would you say? Because there's a lot of questions about people using like alternatives, obviously going into their studios and using what they have. You know, could you just explain a little bit about the viscosity and what we're trying to accomplish so that could help them
Sure.
better determine what they could use in their studios?
Sure. So the basics texture viscosity, it's what I'd say it's thicker than a heavy cream. It's like a very loose toothpaste texture. And it's very good about being able to be softened for texture. Got to be good about cleaning your lids, and I'm not there. I'll take it off. It's very good about having a very soft, loose texture. Let me show you with the green. That'll show up a little bit better. So when you squeeze it out of the container, can you see how it just flows out pretty readily? Yet in this, right out of the container, it still has some body to it, but I can really smooth it out quite easily, and I could make a very flat stroke with it if I wanted. So it's a very creamy texture. So if you had an acrylic paint in your studio already that was very thick in body and texture, you're going to need to add more gel and more water than I'm going to use. That's why we chose the basics for this project. It's just that perfect creamy but not too creamy to hold the body but work well with the gel as we're pulling the flower strokes through the surface.
Marla, thanks for that. I think the next question, which you started to allude to, is the medium. It's more about the gloss gel medium, you know, not so much, you know, the water, because we're just using those two components. The water is in the spray bottle that Marla will explain a little bit later. We're already getting some questions about that. But it's more about what the medium does to the viscosity. And
right. Yes. So the gloss gel, I'll go ahead and mix it into our orange here. So when you scoop it out, you can see it doesn't fall off the knife. A gel implies that it's going to have some body or texture to it. This is the softest of our 3 gloss gels. And I like it because it's just slightly more viscous than the basics, but it partners really nicely. So I took about 1 palette knife full. Maybe I'll take another half palette knife full to mix with my orange. And you'll see what happens when you do that. It's going to add gloss and make the texture just a little more fluid, because even though it has more body, that nice gel texture kind of just helps make that paint slide across the surface better. I'm not a physicist, I don't know why, but I just know that when I'm working with it, that's what happens. So you can see how it still is holding its texture. We're going to need to add a little bit of water to help it flow a little more on the surface. But this is that nice balance of some texture, but not so much that it won't follow the yarn as we make the flowers. So with my pile of orange, I'm going to take this is just regular water. I'm just going to spritz. Distilled would be best. Like if you mixed a large pile of water, of paint and gel, and you want to save it, you want to make sure that you're using distilled water, not tap water, because any tap water will have contaminants in it that you don't want to store with your paint. But I plan on using this paint just for this painting session, so I'm okay with tap water. So I'm going to do, that was 8 pumps. And the trick with water is the solvent for acrylic, so you never want to overdo it. And by overdo it with Liquitex, we're talking you don't want to use more than 25% water to 75% color or medium. But you can see 8 spritzes of water compared to this much gel and color is not going to affect the performance of my acrylic paint. If someone were to add too much water to paint or gel, it just compromises the adhesion and drying of the acrylic on the surface. So that's why we don't, water as a solvent, we don't want to ever add too much to our paint, but it's okay to add a little if you want to just help change the texture slightly depending on what technique you're doing. So I just added a little water there to get it to the right texture. All right, you guys with me on that? Got your orange? So now we're going to make a lighter value. Well, it's actually going to be kind of I forget that. We're going to make a lighter value, but it's just going to be the yellow. I'm not going to use peach. I'm not going to make peach or anything. I'm just going to use probably, I'd say that's close to a teaspoon amount of yellow. And I'm not going to add any orange because I just want it to be that nice kind of lemon, deep, vibrant yellow that is making this mark here. And now I'm going to add my gel to that, probably the same amount, about 1 full palette knife to 1/2 palette, which I'd say that's what, tablespoon and a teaspoon of gel. The really nice thing, I'm throwing out these volumes, but the really nice thing about working with acrylics in general is that they're very, very user-friendly. You don't have to freak out about how much of one color or medium you're using, because if I were to if I can't, well, I shouldn't even say mess up, because it's really hard to mess up with acrylics besides just dumping too much water in. Other than that, if I were to add a lot more gel than I just did, all that's going to happen is I'm going to have a more transparent color. It's not going to affect drying or adhesion or anything like that. It'll just change the transparency. So that's a really nice thing to know, is that it's very user-friendly. You don't have to worry too much about, did I get the exact right proportion? So 8 pumps again, just to keep it uniform. And it's even okay, I got a little orange in there. That's all right. Again, this is all gonna be blended on the surface anyway, so I don't have to be too, I don't have to panic that I got a little bit of orange in my yellow. It's going to happen as we do this process anyways. I am trying to keep them separate though, just as best I can, but again, don't worry if you get a little bit of that orange in there. And I am very purposely mixing them close together. If you haven't done that, that's okay. When we do the process, you'll just want to pile your colors close together like this. All right. Now, let's make a lighter value yellow. So I'm going to take my Cad Yellow Light Hue again. Do a little less than I did before. So maybe, what did I say before? Teaspoon. So maybe that's like a 1/2 teaspoon of yellow. And let's do a 1/2 teaspoon of my titanium white. And if that happens to you, you can cap it, shake the paint down where it's not flowing out as quickly as you want. Put the cap on, shake it down, open it, and then squeeze out. That kind of gets all the paint towards the base of the tube. And so that's about 1:1 of yellow to white. Get my knife back and just mix. Another thing that I'm sure you can see and notice from adding a gel, it adds volume. So it's a great way to have, it's a very economical way to paint, because ounce per ounce, the gel, for example, or most mediums are going to be less costly than ounce per ounce of paint. So it's a great way to extend the volume of the paint and also help with different techniques. So that's another fantastic reason to use mediums in your painting. Saves money, helps you with different techniques, and creates changes. Like this is a gloss gel, so ultimately our piece will have gloss to it. So that's another nice attribute. Gives it that beautiful shine. Okay, so same thing, palette knife full of gel and a half palette knife. Mix it together. Now, as I look at these yellows, I think it's the second yellow I did is lighter, but I think for drama's sake, I'm going to add a little more white. So maybe a little more white to yellow. Again, I don't have to get super precise. Plus, if you have different basics colors in your studio that you think would look good together, you could use those basics colors with the gel to get your own color flower. But just trying to get close to what, you know, the project is, what we put on our advertisement. So, all right, I don't think I added the water, so let's do that. 8 pumps again. Just mix that in thoroughly. Anyone thinking about making a cake and spreading frosting on it like I always do when I mix paint? It does cross that line into looks good enough to eat. Obviously, don't do it, but looks good enough to eat. On the tech line, sadly, I've actually had a call or two where people asked if they could eat their paint, and I think this is why it looks so delicious that we want to do it, but shouldn't. All right, so we've got the colors of our flower mixed. The next thing to do is prep the canvas to start the technique. To do that, it's already pre-primed, but what we need to do now is put the gloss gel directly on the canvas. So this will require a decent amount of gel. I'm just going to scoop out palette knife amounts and stroke it across the surface. If you don't like the texture that your palette knife gives, you could brush it out. Just make sure that when you brush it out, you don't make a razor thin gel layer. You need a nice, probably, if you were to measure it, it's probably about a 1/16 inch thick of gel, because this is what's going to help our yarn slide across the surface as we're pulling our flowers. So if you brush it to get rid of this kind of stucco texture or knife mark texture, don't overbrush where you lose the volume of the gel. Okay. The other thing to say too, if you don't like that texture, once we pull the flowers, you can come back in and paint the texture out when it's after you've already done the flowers. It's just good to have a nice, thick, and as uniform as possible layer of the gloss gel on your surface. Okay. Jeannie, any questions so people can catch up with me, or we're good?
No, it's been pretty quiet. I've been writing a couple things in the chat about the fluidity, and everybody's working along from those that are on camera. Everybody's mixing, so it looks good.
Oh, I see a question. Can I use matte and gloss gel later? Yep, that's a great question, because you may have matte gel. If you're using the Liquitex matte gel, yes, because that's going to be similar texture to the gloss gel. And that would be fine to pull the flowers. And then, yes, you can put a gloss varnish on top when it's dry if you want to bring back the gloss. The matte gel, though, is going to look even more white as you're working. So just be aware of that difference.
One of the other questions, Marla, was probably about the fluidity and using like, it wasn't necessarily, I think that one of the artists said something about pouring, not necessarily pouring medium, but we have done this process with pouring medium as well. And why don't you just mention about what it does to the viscosity and control?
Sure. The gel as opposed to pouring medium.
Yes, please.
Yeah. So our pouring medium is, and if you want to, Felicia, if you want to go to show me on the screen, that might be less boring than washing my hands. But the pouring medium is a great medium for lots of different projects. And yes, you could do the pouring medium to some degree with this technique. But I've just found that the gel is a much better way to get control, because the pouring medium is so very fluid that it's just going to rock and roll on the surface more so than the gel will, and your flowers won't look as distinct and precise as they do with the gel. And a lot of times, to be quite honest, when you're watching different people do these string pulls online, they are probably using a mixture of glues that are a different texture than our pouring medium. And glues are not going to be a permanent paint medium. They're not going to have the same permanence and archival nature that a paint would. So that's why this is a nice way to use artist quality materials to have a much more long-lived painting than using a glue or something like that you can do the technique with, but the finished product that you have is not going to be as long-lasting or permanent. So, okay, so we've got our gel on the surface. And then I'm going to take my spray bottle again, and I want to spritz it. Just don't have to do a lot, just a few spritz, just to kind of get it nice and moist on top. And now, are you guys ready? This is the super fun part. Take your yarn or string, okay, and you're going to lay it down into the colors. And so this is where you needed the colors to be lined up in some type, in some type of array. I chose to have the orange at the top because I was just thinking about flowers. You could order these however you want. I just like the idea of having the orange at the top and then have it slide to the lighter value color. So that's your choice as the artist, but this is what I'm going to show. Take your palette knife, and then once you've laid your yarn down, just kind of wrap it in paint. And so you don't have to use a paper towel each time. I just then take my palette knife and just clean it on the edge of the palette paper. Again, it doesn't have to be completely clean. It's just cleaner, so I'm not sullying up my yellow right off the bat. But I just go through and then wrap the yarn with each color. Okay. So that yarn texture is going to soak up the paint. Pull it out of the paint. And guys, I'm not wearing gloves because, I wanted my hands to look good for you and not wear a glove. But in your studio, to help with cleanup, gloves are nice. Okay, so feel free to be wearing gloves during this part. But you're going to pick up your yarn, and let's take a quick look. So this composition, what you're going to want to start with is wherever you want your tallest lily to be, that's the first one we're going to pull. So I put my tallest lily basically in the center. So I'm going to mirror that here. And this is where I found it takes a little practice. It kind of dangles, and I obviously don't want to touch it. I guess you could, but I'm trying not to touch it. I drop it, and I just make like a backward S shape. And I want the base of the lily to be in the center, so then I just lay the string down in the center. Take my palette knife again, and this time all I'm going to do is just gently dab it onto the gel surface, because I want to make sure every part of the yarn is making contact, just of the painted yarn. And then this is it, guys. All right, I'm right-handed. I'm going to pull with my right hand. I'm going to take my left hand and put it to stabilize the yarn here, because I don't want it wiggling all over the place as I pull. And then I just slowly and gently pull the yarn. Now I'm going to move my finger and pull it straight down, so you can see how you get that beautiful orange going all the way down. Then if you wanted to, you can take a paper towel and clean your yarn so you can reuse it. I've even done pieces where I just put the yarn right back in without even wiping it, because you're going to coat it with fresh paint anyways. But there you go. That's our first lily.
That looks great, Marla. Question for you. I think this comes up quite a bit about like what yarn we're using or can you use other string? Because we did experiment with different pipes, and
Yes,
you know the string might not get. Why don't you, you know, give your
yes,
feedback? Just might not give you the same effect because the yarn has that nap to it that absorbs more of the paint.
yes. So yeah, fortunately all I had was white yarn, but I hope you can see it in my hands. That softness and the numerous fibers that are twisted around to make the yarn really grip onto the paint nicely. Yes, I encourage you guys to experiment. If you really get into this, experiment with different things like maybe, well, fine. It has to be loose enough though, where it will not fight the body of the paint. Because if you got a really stiff yarn, you're not going to have control. It's got to be loose enough where you can have control of it with the paint on it, but soft enough where it will soak up that paint and hold on to it so you can transfer it to the canvas. If it's very thin, like say embroidery floss, it's probably you're going to need a thinner texture paint. Like you'd probably want to try it with our basics and maybe our gloss fluid medium, and that will reduce the texture. But that's going to be a lot more challenging because the embroidery floss is so thin. So for all things considered, good. You know, I'm not a knitter, so I don't know what gauge to say this is, but to me, this is like your good general purpose yarn. Jeannie,
Yeah, that would be
you have
right.
any
I was going to
questions?
say what kind of skein. I should have researched that before I came on, but
Yeah,
I'll put that in there. But we're getting some really good response. Everyone, I know I love doing this as well. It just looks fantastic and you feel so accomplished. So
yes,
yeah, thanks for that. There was one more question about different backgrounds. You know, we're working with Canvas, obviously, but you know, I'm not sure. Someone said, what other surfaces would you be using? I guess I put the question
yeah,
out to someone out there.
yeah. Great question. Yeah, you can. I mean, acrylics are great on so many surfaces. About the only ones that you don't want to do anything rubbery, waxy, or non-porous. But I mean, gosh, you could do all sorts of things. It's just a matter of having your gel down first, and then you know, having your basics and your gel mixed together to go over it. You know, if you're talking about different actual surfaces like linen versus wood versus that's all you need to know. It needs to be flat. You need to have the gel on top. If you're talking, can I add color to the background? Yes, you could do different backgrounds. If you were to tint your gel, just know that that gel is going to be pulled into your flower, and you may love that effect. But just kind of think that through. I'll show you at the end. I did another piece last night that did a different colors with a different background, so I can show you guys that too to give a different option. But yeah, acrylics are so versatile. This technique is really versatile as well because of the nature of acrylics. So I hope that answered it. But so I just re-soaked my yarn. Now let's take a look at the masterpiece. Not to call it a masterpiece, but you guys know what I mean. The original piece. I want to start with my second tallest lily. Notice how the peak is off to the left here and it's off to the right here. That has to do with how you drape your yarn. I like that compositionally. You do what you want, but I'm just going to point that out, that if I want my little peak in the other direction, I have to lay my yarn out in the opposite direction. So let's do that. Okay. And I get it where I want it, drop it, and go around in my, now it's not a backward S, it's like a regular S. Oop, and that's okay. Sometimes it sticks to my fingers. That's all right. It'll kind of get absorbed as we pull it. Then I'm going to dab it down again. Put this finger in place and pull. Okay. And this time I'm not going to clean off the yarn. I'll just put it directly back in, just to show it doesn't make a huge lot of difference. So you can see how the peaks are opposite from one another. Looking at this again, I'm going to do this one over here because these four are overlapping the taller ones in back. So that's the whole logic behind it. If you want, you know, just to show the effect of overlapping. So just dab your yarn. And the other thing to say too, after that, you see I got a little bit of white here. I want to make sure my surface is still nice and receptive to this layer. So this is where you just can spritz it again with some water. Again, we're adding such a minimal amount of water. You don't have to worry about compromising the acrylic in doing that. Sorry, but I knew I was going to bump it. Oh my God, I'm sorry about that. But okay, so let's just position it over here slightly lower than the second one I did. And now I'm a little clumsy because I'm trying to avoid my camera, but just drop it down. And again, I'm trying to have the bottom of the yarn down next to these two. Imagine like a little clump of flowers. And position my finger. Oh, I was about to forget this part. It wouldn't have been a tragedy if I forgot, but I just like to dab a little bit, just make sure the yarn is in good contact. And then pull. Now you can see this top is not quite as full as I would like. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to re-pull that one. So if this happens to you, you can just redo it. Again, very forgiving process, very forgiving paint medium. Nothing to be frightened of. All right. So in order to kind of cover that up, I'm going to go above the mark I made. I'm going to make sure that I make the S wide enough. See how I made it a little wider there? Follow the same bones of where I went before. Dab it down. And so that will hopefully make it look a little better. Okay, so that made it a little fuller, like that.
Nice recovery. Looks good. We're getting some really good replies. People are feeling very accomplished, which is fantastic. You know, we just want everyone, because once you do it a couple times, like Marla, it's very forgiving. So, and we're just going to continue to layer on top. So I think that's a great thing. We've tried and experimented with lots of different shapes, lots of different, you know, besides yarn, there's chains that we've tried and different mediums. So all these things are available that we've put in projects or are going to be on videos or, you know, you can see there's videos we've made as well. But someone asked what other shapes we can make. I guess if you, from this, we just enjoyed this shape because it was a little tubular and it looked like a lily. So that's what we were trying to achieve with this one. But you could lay down the yarn in many different shapes, layer on top of each other with different colors to create lots of different effects.
That's exactly right. Yeah, this is just kind of the intro to the process. But yes, how you could have more colors than 3. You could have less colors than 3. Change the colors, and yes, you could do numerous bends to your yarn. All of that will change the look, and that's the fun of it. As artists, you get to play and see, you know, what you like and how you might want to change it. All right, so now this, you know, you can do it however you want. I think I'm going to do this flower on my right side. I'm going to go ahead and overlap, just because as I look at the whole composition, I want to make sure I kind of even out this part of the picture plane. So I'm going to drop my orange here because I want the peak of the flower to go, you know, to be on the right hand side, and make my S shape. And you can see this time I made the bell of the, or whatever you call that part of the flower, a little wider. So that will look a little different as well. And dab it. And then pull it. Okay. Now this is, I don't know if you can see my hands, but this is what happens to me. I walk through a studio and I get paint on me. So maybe more fastidious than I am, but just know
We
that
did
this
say
is,
that gloves were optional, so you could just to get the
yeah.
feel. But I think one of the things that you're doing as well, when you're pulling the yarn off, you know, I'm sure you pull it off to a point where the colors start coming, and then you remove your other fingers so that you don't get as
Yes,
messy.
yes,
And then as you'll see, the colors on this creation artwork that Marla is creating, even we changed up the colors a little bit from what we originally started with. So it's really about your interpretation, how you would want it to look.
exactly, exactly. All right, so I did the far right. Let's just keep moving. I'm gonna do another in the center, and maybe I want to kind of work with this negative space here. Put a lily there. So let's see. I'll guide the tip of my yarn here, and this is going to be, well, you know what? Sorry, I keep bumping this, guys. It's close to the surface. Okay, move that bell of the flower out a little bit. Drop it down. Dab it with my knife. You can do a little correction in this part. You can fudge it a little, just kind of move the yarn out if you want. Maybe I want that peak to be up a little bit, so I'll just move it. It's okay. No one's gonna know but me, and now you guys, but you know what I mean. So get that in position, and now I'm ready to pull. Put it back. And so what do we have? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 7 is a good, Jeannie and I've talked about this before, the idea of composition and how many objects would make a good composition. So we've got an odd number of blooms, got 7 blooms here. That does really make it easier to kind of space it out
Yeah.
nicely, get a
Yeah,
good.
it's the theory of 3, right? And that's what it starts with. So you have, yeah, it's just odd numbers, just give more symmetry when you're, you know, decorating, painting.
Yes.
It's a known fact. One of the things that there's a couple things that came out that we have in fact tried different color surfaces, but what will happen with the putting the layer of the gloss gel if someone were to paint the background? How will
Let me
it?
just show you this one since we got a couple questions.
Yeah,
So this is
say,
what I did last night. So I had just a canvas line around my studio. It was blue. It was a little too harsh. So I then just did some dry brush of the white to kind of look like clouds. Let that dry. And then I put the gel directly on that. But you can see that I'm getting the kind of stripes of the flower. That's letting the blue show through. I like it in this piece, but if you didn't like that, you could come in and paint in those areas if you wanted. Um, and I was trying to think if like I were to have done, so that's one way to do it if you have a more decorative background you're putting the flowers on. If you, well, and I'm trying to think if there's any way you could do it where you wouldn't get those stripes in the flowers. I think your main way to do it if you don't like the background showing through is you just need to feather in some of your own brush stroking to get
right.
rid of it.
It looks, yeah, but that perfect timing to introduce another bouquet. But we're getting good replies. Everyone seems to be, you know, enamored with this. I think it's really fun to even watch. It's very relaxing, but
Yeah,
it's really coming together nicely.
good.
And at the end, let's hope that we have some time, which I think we're going to be pretty good. We'll be able to share everyone's artwork on screen.
Oh, cool. That would be awesome. I haven't got to do that before. At least I haven't been around for that. Okay. So we've got 5. We need one over here, and then we'll finish with one at the bottom right, I think.
One of the other things I want to just jump in on is that this class is being recorded. And for those of you that you will refer back to it, it'll be available at michaels.com, pardon me, /classes. It'll be at the same place that you registered for this class, and it'll be under recently viewed. It'll come up within 48 hours. And then it will live on the Michaels YouTube channel as well. So you'll always have this as a reference if you want to go back to it. One of the other things that Marla, after she does this pool, we're going to give you some information in terms of posting and sharing your creations with us. And, you know, they could, if you tag Michaels at Michaels, it will or may be chosen to reside on their UGC gallery. So lots of fun stuff out there. So you could share your creations.
Good to know. And plus, if you tag me with it, I like to show it on my stories too on Instagram. So if you want to get your work out there, we've got some ways to get your work out there.
That's right. Very nice.
So we've got, now we're going to do our last flower. I think of that last compositional element as the one that can, you know, help you out, correct any compositional issues you might have, and just kind of tie the bow around the package, so to speak. So in this piece, I've got 3 on the side. I think probably in this composition, yes, I'm going to want one right about here. So that's what I'm going to plan for. And let's do one before I do that. Let's do one more spritz on the surface. Spritz my yarn. Oops, sorry guys. All right. And I'm going to position the peak of the lily slightly lower just to add interest. I'm going to get the bell of that flower out a little bit. Drop it down. Dab it a little bit. And yay. It does. Jeannie mentioned the sense of completion. That's what's so fun about it. You just feel like, oh, I got something cool done. And
It is. Yeah, we're getting lots of really cool stuff. People are suggesting other things that could be used. Someone asked if they could use a feather or, you know, I guess, yeah, you could try anything. We've used different surface, you know, different strings and yarn and chains. That's very popular. That's, you'll see that too, which gives you a different effect as well.
yes.
So yeah, we're going to have some of those that we're going to probably show.
I'm going to put this over here and just get you a clean area to show the grain. So we can do the leaves at the bottom, just to kind of position it on the picture plane. And I like the idea of having at least a couple of different greens. So that's why we recommended these two, a deep value and a brighter value. And when I did this, I didn't add gel to it. You certainly can if you want, but I'll just put just a little dollop, probably a penny size, I don't know, or maybe a half teaspoon of the hooker's green. And let's put the same amount of the light green permanent. And we're going to use our palette knife to place the leaves. And of course, there's lots of different ways you can do it. What I like to try to do is use my knife edge to get that blade effect, because when I see calla lilies, I think of them having those long, thin leaves. So that's kind of what I'm thinking of when I'm doing this. And so on my knife, I'm just going to hold it on an edge and just place it in the hooker's green. And then I'm going to just directly place it in the light green permanent. So it's going to mix on the surface as I place it. And because I'm a righty, I start on the left side and just kind of look here and just start on the edge, and then I turn it as I go. You can see how that kind of drops that leaf in place. Now, if I feel like that's a little dark, I can add my light green on top. And if that's too much texture, I can then just kind of put an additional stroke down. And so now that I'm starting to get some mixing on my palette, that's great. I like that. So I'm just going to add a couple more leaves. How easy is that? Totally easy. And then going across, I'm going to add more green and get a few little green strokes in front. Now, this is a case where there's a lot of thick paint down here from all the pulls. So I want to make sure my green is thick enough to sit on top, okay? And not mix with that yellow. I don't really want that to happen. So I'm going to reload my knife each time I place some green down. Okay. Now, this is where it's a little more challenging for me because I'm a righty and I'm going to be pulling the opposite direction from this side. So it may be the same for you depending on what hand you are, but load up your green, position where you want the leaf, start on the edge, and just turn it Now, if I don't like how it's bending that way, I can then just flatten my knife and just play with it. This is what I had to do before. I couldn't do it quite as easy. I'm going to try turning it this way. I have to use both hands to do it. So I'm definitely not a lefty, guys. All right. And then I want more green there, so I'm just going to add it in. Super simple way to get some green to ground it.
The leaves are coming together nicely.
Good.
Yeah,
Now see
everything
if I
is.
blobbed that. Oh, yeah, sorry, Jeannie. If I say I didn't like that, there's a quick, the nice thing about with the gel is I can clean my knife and correct it very easily.
Right.
I can just design that leaf where I want it, scrape the gel back, and look at that little surgery on it there. Sorry, Jean, I interrupted you, but I wanted to
No,
show
not
you.
at all. Yeah, towards the end, someone really enjoyed looking at your other sample that you put up with the bouquet. Well, as I said, Marla has on her right here inside this space, she's got the where you could follow her. Why don't you put that closer up to the camera, Marla, so that we could see? Because you could follow us. We would love for you to post these artworks at hashtag. There you go. Make it with Michaels, hashtag Michaels classes, also at Liquitex Official. You can follow Marla at Marla Morrison Art, and Marla also at TFAC, we call it, North America. That is an organization that Marla is associated with through Colart and Liquitex. So
yes,
we would love to see everyone's pictures. We still have a little bit of time. We're probably going to end a little quicker. So I would think that we would like to show everybody. Yeah, people are already holding them up. Look, I see Gail and Jean have theirs up already. So Marla never really gets to see this. So for those of you that are near completion, if you could
cool.
up, that looks fantastic.
Yeah, look at that.
Look at that.
Awesome.
Yeah, it's nice to see. So if you have anyone else, nicely done. Very good. Congrats. Looks lovely. And then you, once it dries, post at the hashtags. Make it art with Michaels. Make it at Michaels. Excuse me. One other thing I want to just tell everyone. Oh, all right, great. Look at, we're getting lots of different artworks popping up. Looks great. Nicely
Wonderful.
done.
Yeah.
Some of the things that we wanted to like alert you to is that there will be a survey coming back for you to fill out to tell us about the class. So we'd appreciate if you could fill that out for us. The other thing is that the class is being recorded, and at your leisure within the next 48 hours, they'll be available on the website where you register for this class at Michaels at the classes. And I put the link in the chat. And you could view it again as many times you like, change the colors, make your own creation. So lots of good things.
I saw one question pop up. Someone asked about the background on this. I just wanted to just repeat, you just do, if you like this kind of varied background, you just, in this one, it was blue first, let it dry. It was a light blue permanent basics color. Let it dry, and then took titanium white and did a dry brush, which just means very little paint on your brush. And I just kind of scrubbed it in, let that dry, and then put the gel straight from the jar on top. Then let that, I actually didn't let that dry. I put the gel straight on, and then I was able to pull the flowers on top. So you could literally do any background. Just know that you'll have some of that show through your flowers or whatever you pull through it. So yeah.
One other thing, Marla, people are asking, a couple things. Yes, we've used Liquitex products here, other products, that's to create this desired effect. Basics paint and the Liquitex gloss medium gel. One of the other things is people are asking are other classes. So we have the tropical leaf that Marla is going to be actually doing a more painterly piece of artwork, which is really on point right now. Tropical leaves are really popular on a really lovely coral background. And that's on April 20th.
Can I show that, Jeannie?
Sure. Give us a preview.
I have it right here. So if you want to paint this with me, love to see you doing that. Totally different kind of process there. Somebody asked about the leaves that I want to address. Yes, when I was doing this, you could have certainly added gel to do the leaves. I just chose not to because I felt like I could do enough paint, but there'd be absolutely no problem adding gel to it to increase the volume of your color. So you can add gel. I just chose, I didn't need to because I wasn't pulling it with the yarn. I was just using the knife. So I felt like I didn't have to add the gel to that.
That sounds great. Well, it looks like we have everyone. Thank you once again for joining. Please post so we could share your creations. And
Yes,
we'd love to see you again. Join us for another class. Thank you, Michael, for sponsoring these classes for us and
yes.
for Liquitex to provide some creativity into your lives. So enjoy, and we're really happy you joined us. So make it a great day.
Thanks.